You're listening to Conversations That Matter with your host, Terry Conrad.
Hi everyone, I am Terry Conrad and you are watching Conversations That Matter, and I am joined today by someone I deeply, deeply respect. This is Jim Walberg out of the Bay Area, luxury agent. The company is called the Bay Area Team with Pacific Union Christie's International Real Estate, and I am so grateful that you decided to join me today. I deeply respect you. Laura Monroe was the one who sort of flagged you to me and said, hey, you need to know Jim. He's just this amazing person, a mentor, a guide, a beacon for the industry, sharing all of your knowledge and your expertise. And I'm so grateful you decided to join me today. Thank you so much for being here, Jim.
Well, that's a little over the top, Terry. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure. Delighted to hang out with Conversations That Matter.
Fabulous. And the thing is every conversation that you seem to have really does matter, down to the posts that you post on Facebook where you talk about what you're thinking about, and they're always sort of linked to your own personal values, which I absolutely love and adore, which speaks to your overall brand, that I think is really, really exciting. There's a bunch of topics that we thought we would cover today. Why don't we start a little bit with, share a little bit about who you are and your history in the real estate industry, how you came to be where you are today, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, my real estate history started in the East Bay of San Francisco. In 1979, I came up with the idea that it would be worthwhile and profitable to build spec houses. So I'd build one a year, and I started from Orinda, Lafayette, down through Danville, Blackhawk, and built 16 of them during about a 7-year period of time, 8-year period of time. The first half of them I made an enormous amount of money. The second half I lost an enormous amount of money. So I got my doctorate degree in building spec houses during that time period.
Yeah. Fabulous.
Then in 1990, a friend of mine asked if I would partner with him in setting up a real estate company. I'd never been on the side of the fence of realtors. I'd had very little respect for the industry.
Mm-hmm.
I felt that it was a have-to industry for me as a spec builder, as opposed to somebody that was really bringing value to what I was doing.
Interesting. Mm-hmm.
So I told him, I said, I'd be glad to work with you, but I'm not going to be a realtor.
Interesting.
So he said, I just need you to be the managing partner, and I'll be the realtor. So I came in with him as a managing partner of the firm, and we started. And within 4 months, I was so transformed as to what real estate and serving others was really about, that I ended up saying, Dennis, we're in this together. I'm getting my license, and we were partners together for 5 years.
Wow.
So that's how I got into the real estate industry.
And now you've owned your own brokerages. You've owned a brokerage in the Caribbean. I mean, there are so many ways we can go here. So I'm trying to stay sort of on one course. You've been a sailor for, that's another part of your life that's really important to you. And that took you to the Caribbean, and you owned a brokerage in the Caribbean as well. Why don't you share a little bit about that experience? Is there a difference between how we operate real estate in the Caribbean versus here in North America?
Well, it's a different, completely different manner of doing business. I've been sailing. I grew up in Redondo Beach, California. I don't remember when I wasn't sailing, and I've sailed in the Caribbean since 1975. In 2005, my wife and I decided that we were going to transition to the Caribbean as our next home.
Right.
So we decided that we would buy a brokerage down there as a method of commerce as we transition. It was a fabulous experience. It did not turn out the way we thought. By 2007, the world markets collapsed, the real estate markets in the Caribbean collapsed, and we decided, you know what, having such a volatile economy based on discretionary income was not a place that we would probably want to have as our next a full-time home.
Right.
So we sold the brokerage, but we kept our little charter sailing brokerage business. So we still set up holidays and sailing trips for friends and family, and for you and your friends that are interested in sailing in the Caribbean.
Yeah, I'll be on that list. That's for darn sure. For sure. That's definitely in my future. So now you have been operating in the Bay Area with your luxury company for how many years?
Well, really since 1990. I think as any real estate brokerage or real estate practice unfolds, it really evolves. It's not something where you instantly turn a page and you're serving multi-million-dollar customers.
Right.
It's really something that unfolds. And it's very interesting how today it's, we started out serving our friends and family that were all people buying the type of houses that we owned. They weren't mansions. It just happened that we evolved with them. And so now they're the presidents of major corporations, they're the executives of major corporations, they own major corporations. The part that I didn't see coming is that we're now serving their kids.
Right.
So now we're back to, I don't think we've ever had so many first-time home purchases in the last 12 months as we've had probably in 20 years.
Interesting.
And it's because of their kids.
Right.
So it's been very interesting to see that transition go from serving them to now serving their kids.
And so now, does the level of service that you offer, is there any variance? Like, is there a change in what you do with your high-end luxury clients versus their kids? Or do they qualify for the same service?
Well, all of our clients have the same service. Mm-hmm. In fact, I almost feel like I'm doing a pro bono case right now with a young couple that was referred to us from friends of ours down in San Diego that said that they really need help in finding a home, and there had not been a realtor in their brokerage, which happened to be someone other than Pacific Union, that was willing to serve them. They were only up to $500,000 in purchase price. They were a VA, a Veterans Administration loan, which is unique. It's not one that I've ever done before.
Interesting.
They are only able to purchase homes about 40 miles from our office. So even yesterday, I showed them properties. I put about 95 miles on my car, and this is because that anybody that we choose to work with is going to get the same service.
I love that. That's beautiful. So when you're operating in a luxury market, I know that you just attended a conference, the Institute for Luxury Home Marketing, because you are obviously spending a lot of your time in your business building in that luxury market. Why don't you share with us a little bit about what it means to operate in that echelon, and you know, what is it that, like, how are you building your business? How do you, like, what would you advise somebody else if they wanted to sort of start to up their game, take their business to the next level, you know, start to do a little more work in the luxury market? What would be your advice?
Well, I'd start out big with put yourself in opportunity's way. Mm-hmm. So that's where I would start. Put yourself in opportunity's way. If you are out fishing and wanting to catch marlin, you're going to have to go out to the deep ocean off of Mexico or San Diego.
Love that.
You're not going to catch marlin off a pier in San Diego or in Redondo Beach or Hermosa or even up in Berkeley.
Right.
So I talk about put yourself in opportunity's way. We just think it's normal for us to operate the way we do, but I'm sure it's probably not typical for a lot of people. The manner in which you see me dressed today is about the dressiest I am in my service to our clients. It's the manner in which they dress.
Yeah.
So you need to know what costume your audience wears. You need to be able to have an understanding of a vocabulary that may be different. You need to learn about architecture, if they're asking about a Dutch colonial style house, if you don't know what that is, you need to know what that is.
Right.
So there's some things to improve your game regarding your vocabulary, your knowledge. We are constantly participating in learning opportunities throughout the year regarding this topic. We would like to consider ourselves in a process of mastery, even though we're not there yet. But that's the nonstop goal is mastery.
Well, and I love that. Not there yet. And you've been doing this for, what, 30 years more?
Right.
This industry, I think, is its constant learning curve. You never get there. It's a constant, like you just said, this is the first one you've ever done before of this type of, buyer. How is that possible in 30 years of business that you haven't covered it all yet? Every deal is always a new experience. Isn't that interesting? One of the reasons that you and I have really connected is because I think we both are really interested in helping agents, have that magnificent life, as you like to refer to it. I would love for you to share a little bit of some of the things that you've been sharing with me over the last few weeks about how you intentionally build your life and create that magnificent life that is so important to you.
Well, I'll see if I can give the short version.
Okay.
In 2005, I was at a best practices conference with 250 realtors in Dallas, Texas. The last 4 hours of the 4-day conference was with a gentleman named Dr. Fred Gross. Dr. Fred Gross is out of New Zealand, and he at that time was 77 years old. He sat down in a big wingback chair, and the first question he asked everyone was, how many of you would like to celebrate your 100th birthday and have it be really fun? I raised my hand, and I noticed that there were not a lot of people in the audience raising their hand. And then he addressed the people that had raised their hand. He said, what is it that you're willing to do differently today that will assure you that you're going to have a really fun time on your 100th birthday party?
Right.
And what came to my mind at that time was I was smoking cigars. And I said, you know what instantly came to my mind is if I'm going to have a really cool, fun 100th birthday party, I probably should stop smoking cigars.
Probably.
Which I did. I mean, I just instantly that day stopped smoking cigars.
See, I find that remarkable because I can have all kinds of great ideas that I don't necessarily execute on.
Well, that started a 4-hour process of him asking the audience questions that we all had to do homework on right during his session. One of the exercises he did was he called it an exercise of tens. He said if you could have a day full of tens, what would the tens look like? And then he would just be quiet for 10 or 15 minutes and we'd all start writing.
Right.
Then he asked, how about a week? How about a week full of tens? Something that would happen just once a week that would be just magnificent. How about a month? How about a year? And went through a whole exercise of having life created of tens. He asked, he said, when you were in university, if you did go to university, what would, if you got 100% on a exam or a paper, what would that grade be? And obviously everyone said it would be an A. So if you had to guess a life of tens, how many of you are getting sixes instead of tens? How many of you are having a life of sixes? Few raised their hands. How about sevens? I raised my hand. Said, how many of you would like to have a life with an average of a D or a C grade? And I really got it that I had not consciously thought about what I was settling for, as opposed to purposefully designing a magnificent life. That then began a process that's now gone on for 10 years of every year designing what the next year is going to look like that would be magnificent. So at the end of this year, 2015, at December 31st, when that comes to a conclusion, if God willing, if I'm still here, I could say that I had had a magnificent life that I designed. And there's a whole process that we have now created to go through that planning, writing, committing, checking in on a weekly basis, on a quarterly basis, how we're doing, making course corrections, having consequences. And this is the area that most people get caught up in regarding setting goals. And what Dr. Gross talked about is that goals, good ideas, and good intentions never happen.
Right.
They're just fun exercises that make people feel good. But a commitment happens. And so how you know a commitment happens, how you know it's a commitment is because it happens. And he gave the example, for instance, if your son was 2 years old and he had to get to the hospital for some reason, and you got into your car to start getting him there, and your car didn't start, it wouldn't matter what it was that got in your way, you'd get the kid to the hospital.
Right.
You'd hijack a car, you'd do whatever you had to, you'd run to the hospital. We said that's a commitment,
right,
as opposed to a goal. And most people live their lives in a state of try or wishes or goals as opposed to commitments.
So I have found often people that I've dealt with, some of the struggles that they've had is maybe they're not clear about the direction that they're going in. Like maybe that's sort of a roadblock or something that gets in their way. Do you feel like, I have found the people that are most successful typically are very clear on their direction. They know exactly where they're going. They know what their vision is, and the clarity is crystal. And I think when you have that level of clarity, it's so much easier to make that commitment. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I would. I would maybe frame it a little differently, Terry. Until a person is clear on what their big whys are, I don't think there's a prayer of how it's going to. It's going to turn out by accident if they're not clear about what their big whys are. Once a person has their big whys set up, the how will then begin.
Right.
If they don't have their big whys set up, there's no prayer. They don't know what to do. And this was too big for me with Dr. Fred Gross. So I broke it down into 9 different life categories that I then would do my work on. The first one was my loving relationship with my wife. If I had a year that I could claim was magnificent with her, what would that look like?
Right.
What are the things that I would do? What are the thoughtful moments that I would create for her that would be 10s on a daily or weekly or monthly basis? And then I would work down to my mental, physical, social, spiritual, community, leisure, financial, business, at 9 different categories.
Right.
And so I broke it down into bite-sized pieces as opposed to which I didn't have a clue. If somebody asked me 20 years ago, what's your big whys? I didn't have a clue. I didn't even know how to answer it.
And I think so many people struggle with that piece, honestly, which is embarrassing.
But I think that, well, I don't know if this is true for anyone else but me, but I think that the question is so gigantic that they get paralyzed in not addressing it. I don't even know where to start if somebody asks me what my big whys are. But if you ask me, what is it that you're going to be doing in 2015 to create your physical condition and your health, so at the end of the year, I'm at 170 pounds and in the best physical condition that I could imagine being in for 2015, I know how to answer that question.
Right.
So I know I can design my workouts, I can design my food, I can design that big why if I break it down into that bite-sized piece.
But that doesn't really address the why. That addresses the how. that says, okay, here's what I need to do, here's all the pieces to get to the goal, but that doesn't tell me why that's the goal in the first place.
Right, so I'm going to use the word commitment because I don't use the word goals.
Right.
So it's not in my vocabulary.
Got it. Commitment.
So my big why around the health, so let's just choose health. My big why around health is that I look at my job every day, not helping people buy real estate. I look at my job every day, my work is serving my community and serving others. That's my work.
Yes.
So if I am passionate about continuing that work, then my big why is that I need to be as healthy as I possibly can be in order to get up each morning, singing and dancing, getting ready to do my work.
Right.
So that, then I would expand on that as my big why.
Love
the
it.
how then is all the stuff that I'm doing every day to make sure that happens.
Agreed. And that makes sense.
My play is real estate. So my work is serving my community and serving others. My play is going out to the playground that I've designed called real estate and go out and play.
Yeah.
So when you were in school and I was in school, recess, I couldn't wait for recess.
Yeah.
So I have got it in my mind that every day I'm out of recess when I'm working with my clients and helping them with their real estate needs.
I love that. I love how you frame that. I think that's a big piece, too, that I see people who are truly happy and successful, how they frame their existence and the experiences that they're having is a big piece to how happy they're actually going to be, I feel. Okay. Sorry, I was just going to say, along those lines, like, you can continue, too, by the way, because everything that you shared with me is total gold, and it probably is best for me to just be quiet and let you keep talking.
No, what I was going to say was that it must be specific, actionable, measurable, and ambitious.
Right.
Those are the 4 rules for putting together the house.
Right.
It must be specific, measurable, actionable, and ambitious.
And realistic.
Has nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
Realistic this is a good one. Realistic is a limiter, in my opinion. So the first time that I worked through this magnificent life stuff, I said, there is no way I can pull this off. Because it's not realistic.
Because you set such huge commitments for yourself.
No, they weren't huge. They were the design. That's how the design turned out. So it was huge.
Right.
But it was my design.
Yeah.
And what came into my mind was, that's not realistic.
Right.
Well, what I have concluded, so follow this one, that we are prisoners of whatever we believe to be true and possible. So we're prisoners of whatever we believe to be true and possible. Now follow this sentence. This is a long one. Whatever we believe to be true and possible is how we organize our lives so it turns out that way so we can be correct.
I'm completely in agreement. This is something that I've been fascinated with for a long time, and I call it mindset, and it's something that I personally have struggled with, of course, in my limiting beliefs and everything that I've tried to break through for my own personal life, and I believe this completely. Here's where it gets interesting for me, is even when you recognize that you have sort of this ceiling of what's possible, how do you kind of break through that and step it up and start to see a bigger vision?
Oh my, this is going to be fun. So I can only talk about how it's turned out for us and for me. I won't even speak for my wife, who is my business partner. It has to do with consequences. So for instance, if for some reason you were not able to get your son to the hospital, what would happen?
Could be dire.
The consequences are not acceptable.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So Dr. Fred Gross's opinion is that if you set up consequences that are so dire, it's amazing the extraordinary things you'll do.
Right.
So, for instance, I remember, this may be way too personal, but I remember one of the consequences I set up for one of the years for my magnificent life was I wrote a $10,000 check to my ex-wife. I post-dated it a year. I put it in an envelope. I addressed it with no letter. I put a stamp on it, and I brought it to my attorney with instructions that said, in 1 year, I have to demonstrate with a 1099 that I have X amount of income that I've generated through real estate,
Yeah.
or you have to mail that letter no matter what I say.
Yeah, that's a driver.
Well, I had that, I put a copy of that check on my mirror in the bathroom. I had to look at it every day. It was extraordinary, the mountain that I thought that we were going to be climbing that year in what it was required to fund our magnificent life. But every day I was reminded that there's no choice.
Yeah.
So there was no choice.
So I think that's an awesome example of a way, because one of my questions was going to be, so you go through this painful process of breaking every piece of your life down and designing it very intentionally, which would take, a commitment in itself and some time. And then, what we often do is we write our business plans or whatever, and we park them over here and then forget to look at them and carry on with our lives and may or may not actually achieve any of the things that we said we were going to try to achieve, right? Sorry, hold on, turn off. And so the question then becomes, I love how you've posted it on your mirror, and now that's a reminder to you every day of the commitment that you've made. I'm going to look for examples of ways we can do that with all of the other things that we do in our lives, because I think that reminder is so necessary. Is there something else you've done because you went through the process and you have all these, very crystal clear initiatives and commitments that you've made? How do you stay on top of that? I think you talked about a GPS system that you have.
In fact, I'll read you a couple of the, yes, so because of sailing, I am very familiar with working with a GPS.
Right.
So because of sailing, there was a period of time where I've delivered sailboats a very long distance. I used to be on a regular route with a couple of friends from San Francisco to Cabo San Lucas, where you were delivering sailboats for very rich people that did not want to sail there; they wanted to fly.
Yeah.
So it was the whole navigation process is really simple when you're sailing. Going out of San Francisco, you go out 100 miles, you put a dot on the map, you put a big ruler from that dot to Cabo, and that straight line is your course. There's no lefts or rights other than going out 100 miles and turning left.
Right.
So now you're going straight. So you have 4-hour watch schedules. Whoever's at the helm has to put a red dot on the chart.
Yes. Where
am I compared to where I said I wanted to be? Even though we're on automatic pilot on a sailboat, the winds and currents move you off course.
Yes.
I have never in my entire life of sailing ever put the red dot on the course line, ever.
Wow.
And there's no thought that what an awful sailor you are because you're not doing that.
Love
There's no sailor that puts the red dot on the course line. And so all you're doing is checking frequently enough to make very small course corrections. So your sail to Cabo is 2 weeks.
Yes.
If you checked once a day as opposed to once an hour, it would add 1 more week.
Wow.
onto your sail, because the course corrections are now more dramatic. And I think what happens often with people that with good intention put a plan together of how their year is going to turn out, why it doesn't turn out is they don't do their course correction work frequently enough to make small course corrections. So every Friday is a time when I check in with myself as to what it is, where am I compared to where I said I wanted to be. So I designed 18 questions for myself that I would ask every Friday. The first one is, what is the quality time that I spent with the people that I love and care about? So those 18 questions are not about real estate. They're about life.
Yes.
They're about my life. So it's not my life. It's so funny when I think about the questions that people ask at a cocktail party. So what do you do? Is the question. People define themselves around what they do.
Yes.
As opposed to who they are. And so my GPS system is questions that relate to my life. What did I meet my commitments at the gym this week?
Right.
What are the handwritten notes that I sent out this week? I mean, there's a whole series of questions that are focused on my life, not real estate. So that happens every Friday, and then there's every quarter. There's a form that I fill out on those 9 categories that I've talked about. My relationship with my wife, with our friends and family, community, and so on. And the question on those is, what is it that I'm going to do in the next 3 months to move me closer to getting 100% of that magnificent life I've designed? I physically fill that out. It's folded up, it's hand addressed back to me, it's given to our assistant, and in 3 months she mails it back to me.
Yep.
So I get it in the mail, and here is this thing that I personally designed and signed my name to, that is a reminder, am I in a state of commitment, or am I in a state of just good intentions? So there's lots of checkpoints along the way that are helping us keep on course.
To me, this is it makes such perfect sense, and yet I think a lot of people who hear this message will be going, "Oh my gosh, that's brilliant," because I think we do sort of sleepwalk through a lot of our lives. We're, like you said, with the best of intentions. We set our goals at the beginning of every year, and then we sort of kind of go into operate just regular maintenance and just keep doing what we've always done and give it our best effort. We try. God bless us, we try. But it can be such a challenge, and we can be so unintentional and sort of sleepwalking and not really knowing. Every day sort of bleeds into the next day, before you know it, a month's gone by. And so what would be your best advice on how to, because this sounds daunting. That sounds like a lot of work. How do you help people sort of, take the time to really do the process? And it's hard for me to sell it. I keep trying to, encourage people. I struggle with this. It's hard.
Well, the good news is that I'm not in charge of people doing it.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I'm not powerful enough, and no one is, to have anyone else do something that they're not wanting to do.
Right.
For some reason, Terry, there was a light bulb that went off with Dr. Gross, and there's been other moments too, but his was the most dramatic for me, about you're either going to live life accidentally,
yes,
or it's going to be purposeful. And it is work. So if someone looked at what it is that we are going to accomplish in 2015 with the various aspects of our life, they would probably say the same thing, that, oh my gosh, that's daunting. But it's the example of eating the elephant, just one bite at a time. If you had to have your whole quarter's portion of the elephant in 2 days, each quarter, it'd be impossible.
Right.
It's not impossible if it's done in little bite-sized pieces. Another ingredient that is, I think, critical is having an accountability partner. So, for instance, I was speaking about this specific topic about planning to the audience at our company 2 weeks ago. And I asked them the question, I asked the audience, I mean, there were 400 or 500 people in the audience, and I asked them, I said, so how many of you would be willing today to stand up and declare the amount of revenue that you're going to receive in 2015 from your real estate practice? That you're publicly willing to stand up and say, at December 31st, this is the revenue that I'm going to generate. Well, it was pretty quiet. No one wants to stand up, because if you declare it, now you have to be held accountable.
Absolutely.
So now people are going to say at December 31st, Jim, how'd it go? Well, I didn't do it. I didn't think you would.
Yeah.
So the process of having an accountability partner is a way of almost guaranteeing it will happen.
Yep.
Because you have to have somebody that you're speaking with each week, that you have sent them your weekly commitments, and they are, without judgment, totally without judgment, are asking, where are you compared to where you said you wanted to be, in a very specific order of questions on that accountability call.
Yes.
And it's sobering, and it's nerve-wracking if you are behind on your commitment completions before that call.
Very humbling, yeah.
I remember one of my commitments was I'd been struggling to get through this book that I knew was an important book for me to read. It obviously wasn't, because I wasn't reading it.
Yeah.
But I'd just say, I'm going to read that book this week. And I noticed that the night before the accountability call, I hadn't read the book. I stayed up the entire night reading that book because I was not going to miss that commitment that I had put my name, I'd written it. I signed my name to it.
Yeah.
So it gets real when you have an accountability partner.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does. I love that. You know, we're getting close to winding down here. Before we do, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. One is, you know, what does it mean to operate a luxury brand? And, like, again, going back to, you'd been to your conference this week. How is it that you're tackling that piece of your business? What is your approach? How important is it? Like, why did you even join Christie's? I'm imagining that you place a little bit of value on brand. Can you share a little bit of your position on that?
Yes, Pacific Union in the San Francisco Bay Area, we view it as the preeminent luxury brand.
Right.
So it's a boutique brand in San Francisco that's been there since 1975. In 2009, the Christie's auction house came to Pacific Union and said, we would like to be your partner in the luxury brand in the San Francisco Bay Area. So they only have 132 brokerages in the world that they form partnerships with. So it's not a franchise, it's an affiliation.
Right.
Your other luxury brands that are out there are generally owned by NRT, National Real Estate Trust. They're out to franchise. It's not an affiliation. So our connection with Pacific Union was because of Pacific Union and because of their connection with Christie's.
Interesting.
We felt that we were finally putting together the brand with our audience that we were serving. We travel a lot. No matter where it is in the country or if it's in Europe, we stop at every city that we're visiting and say, we're going to take a minute or we're going to take several hours and have lunch or dinner with the owner of the Christie's affiliate in that city, whether that's in Paris or that's in Florence or Rome or Geneva, Switzerland. Wherever it is that we are traveling, we have met all of those owners. It's been one of the most powerful luxury networks that we never imagined how it would turn out.
Right.
We just had dinner with the owner of the 12 offices of Christie's in Paris in September, Maria Lundgren. And during our dinner, we had no expectation other than this was our second time with her, but just to get better acquainted.
Right.
She said, you know, we have this luxury magazine that we print every quarter that goes to all of the offices, to all the high-end hotels, to all of the livery services, the black cars, the private jets. And I would like to dedicate 2 pages to San Francisco, and would you be willing to take that project on for me? So that would have never happened if we hadn't called up Maria Lynn and said, would you have time for dinner with us?
Absolutely.
So it has exploded our world of luxury real estate connections, that branding.
And so that part is really interesting too, because it almost is the luxury real estate branding piece is connected very closely to international referral business. And I know a lot of people who are really starting to focus on the world getting a lot smaller, and particularly at that level of real estate marketing, where is that buyer coming from? Oftentimes it's from another country. So I find this part really fascinating. I'll be watching you really close to see what you're doing.
What we've discovered, Terry, is that none of these connections would have referred anything to us if we had not met them face to face.
Great.
And so it is expensive, it is intentional, wherever we travel to meet these people face to face. And we're very, very blessed that San Francisco is a destination city.
Yes.
In the world. So there, in San Francisco, believe it or not, it has the largest French community in all the country.
Wow, I didn't know that.
So we have a very deep connection to Paris and to San Francisco. Same with Geneva.
Right.
And there is and especially with China, our Civic Union just this last year, and there may be others, but I don't know of any brokerage that set up their own portal in Beijing for real estate. We partnered with a company called SoFun in Beijing, and we have a fully Chinese portal for real estate in Beijing.
Wow.
And we have a Chinese concierge service that any of the inquiries come to our San Francisco office, to the Chinese concierge that speaks Mandarin.
Yes.
And so all of our listings are in Beijing.
Fabulous.
So San Francisco is also a magnet for Asia.
Absolutely. Vancouver, similar market. We experience much the same, yes. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. We could go down that path for a good long time, but we're winding down on our time, Jim. And before we settle this conversation, there was two other big things that we need to talk about. One is you're doing your Ride for Cancer, and the other piece is the legacy that you want to leave. So I'm going to hand it over to you and let you just sort of share with me why you're doing your Ride for Cancer, what is so important about that to you, and then I'm imagining the legacy is going to be part of that. So.
Well, it's very kind of you. 2001, I started my various adventures with cancer. I have a lot less body parts than anybody I know that's still alive. In fact, my whole doctor team at UCSF just can't believe that I made it. I was at UCSF for almost 5 months in 2004 and 5. So I am just blessed every day to get up and be a cancer thriver. I don't like the word survivor. I think that it's gruesome thinking about crawling across a finish line. I've already done that. I've already crawled across the finish line, barely. So people that have cancer in their rearview mirror are thrivers, in my opinion.
Love it.
2 years ago, I heard about an event that is raising funds for 100% of the funds raised goes to Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, where they are going to find a cure. This event is called Cycle for Survival. It's in 13 cities in the country. Last year they raised about $21 million just in this one weekend event. I'm riding again in San Francisco instead of just a team of 4. I've organized 13 more teams to join me. So we're going to be raising some significant funds by February 21st. In addition, a former classmate of mine in high school, 48 years ago, contacted me last month and said, Jim, I would like to contribute $25,000 for matching of any funds that your team raises. I was absolutely floored. It's a long story, but she said, as long as you're going to do this every year, I'm in for $25,000. So we're going to, we believe that we'll raise close to $60,000 or $70,000 for this one-day event. And there's still room for a lot more people to join in with me. And if they'd like, they can just email me at jim@jimwalberg.com, and I'll send them all the information.
I will also, of course, include a link for where people can see more about the event and everything that you're doing, and how they can, of course, donate to your cause, because I, of course, believe in it completely.
So you're talking about the legacy, Terry. I'm not sure where to go with this, but I'll go in a particular direction. If there is at the end of my life and I'm gone, what I'm hoping people would be able to say is that he gave people permission to be great. That he loved them. Wow. That he loved them unconditionally, and that he did all he could to give them the tools to pull it off. So that would be the legacy.
And powerful, very powerful. You're such a beautiful person, and I respect you deeply, and I am so eternally grateful for your contributions, not just here today, but in everything that you do. I mean, we're just so blessed to know you, and I just couldn't respect you any more than I do. Deep gratitude for you taking the time to share such a personal journey, and I really look forward to connecting with you in person very, very, very soon.
Thank you so much, Terry, for having this conversation, and I'm delighted that we've connected.
Me too. You have a beautiful day, and we will talk very, very soon.
Thank you.